Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Two down, two to go. Now that we've gotten through the least interesting movies this weekend, now we talk about the movies that people actually care about to an extent. So now we talk about Spiral, which many people believe will be the biggest movie of the weekend, myself included. So as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons for Spiral. So let's get to it. Pros. This is the ninth entry in the Saw series, a series that's been going on since 2004. From 2004 to 2010, it was almost a tradition to have a Saw movie come out every Halloween. We had Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we had Saw 3D, which had the name of The Final Chapter, which turned out to be a total lie because 7 years later in 2017, the Saw series came roaring back, I guess, with Jigsaw, which did okay. And then flash forward to a few years later, and now the series is going in a brand new direction with this. So, yeah, I mean, this series has had a lot of success. And it also helps that it was super cheap to make. That's how they were able to pump these out every year back in the day. So, it obviously has a fan base, big fan base. I'm a part of said fan base. I've seen all the movies and those two crappy video games. I played those awful games. That's how big of a fan I am. So, yeah, that's an automatic pro is that this movie is part of a long running franchise, has millions of fans. There are a decent amount of them will probably show up to watch it. So, yeah, I consider that a pro. Uh, pro number two. Pro number two. Well, the movie stars Chris Rock. And funny enough, this whole movie was his idea. He went to Lionsgate and he had his idea for a Saw movie. And they were like, okay, cool. And that's how the movie got made, apparently. And with Chris Rock, being in a movie like this is kind of weird. It's because Chris Rock is mostly known for comedy, and this is horror. It's kind of a weird change of pace. It's kind of like what Jordan Peele did, how he went from Key and Peele to making Get Out, which turned out to be a great decision because now he has a new career in horror. So it worked out for him. And maybe it could work out for Chris Rock too, potentially. So I guess I would consider that a pro. Is that also this has Sam Jackson? How can you go wrong with him? So I would consider that a pro. This movie has two recognizable stars attached. So I would consider that a pro. Another pro is that it's being released quite wide. It's at 2,800 theaters. Not the widest of the pandemic, but it's still pretty close. So that's proof positive that Lionsgate has some faith in this. Hell, they pushed the release date of this movie up by a week because it was supposed to come out the 21st, but then they decided to push it up a week because they had some confidence in it, considering movie theaters reopening and whatnot. So they clearly have some confidence in this. So I would consider that a pro too. And also the fact that this movie has gotten quite a bit of ad time in the past few weeks. So that's another pro right there. And also I guess it has no competition for the next 2 weeks. I mean, literally nothing is coming out next weekend. So it has 2 weeks to itself basically. So I could consider that another pro too. Okay, now to the cons. So this movie was supposed to come out last year, the exact same weekend, May 15th. It had a poster, it had a trailer, and then everything went wrong. It was pushed back an entire calendar year. So there's a chance some people potentially who were interested may not care anymore about it. They may have lost interest in it. So we have to keep that in mind because these delays they can be a serious detriment to a movie's box office because people tend to forget about them and then the movie just doesn't perform as well as it should. So yeah, I would consider that a con. The long delay it had to endure. So that's the first con. Second con, it's just this movie, considering every Saw movie previously came out in October, the fact that this is coming out in May just seems really weird to me. It's kind of a strange choice because with the October release for the Saw movies worked out pretty well. Like why fix something that clearly isn't broken, right? It makes no real sense to me. But I guess Lionsgate didn't see it as a October movie. They didn't see it as a fall movie. Granted, it doesn't help that Halloween Kills is coming out in October, and I highly doubt Spiral wants to deal with that because the Saw series has a nasty history of going up against another horror series and failing miserably. Like Saw 6 went up against the first Paranormal Activity movie, went horrible for Saw. And then the next year, Saw 3D went up against Paranormal Activity 2, also went bad. So, yeah, I don't think Spiral wants to, I don't think the series wants to do that again, especially with something as prolific as the Halloween series. So, yeah, the release date just seems kind of weird, kind of off to me. So, I guess I would consider that a con. I guess another con is that I don't know, this whole series, its reputation is not the greatest. I mean, a lot of people think the first one was pretty good, and then the sequels were kind of some better than others. I mean, from personal experience, the previous 8 Saw movies, Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3D, and Jigsaw, in my personal opinion, like the top half is Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 6, and Jigsaw. And the bottom half is Saw 3, 4, 5, and then at the very bottom, Saw 3D, where it belongs, because it's a piece of garbage. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, this series doesn't have like the greatest reputation in the world, but really, what horror series does? Like Friday the 13th doesn't. Nightmare on Elm Street doesn't. Halloween doesn't. Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't. I mean, Conjuring is a bit better, but still not the greatest. Purge certainly doesn't. Like, horror. Really, reviews don't matter. Reputation really doesn't matter because the fans only want one thing from these movies, and that's gore and traps. That's all they want. And from personal experience, from me watching this movie, yes, I have seen this movie. I went to the theater and I watched it just like a few hours ago, and I think fans will like it. It has what fans want, but I don't know. I will get to that a little later, but yeah, I don't think reputation really is gonna hurt it all that much now that I think about it. But still, doesn't have the greatest reputation in the world. So, and it's mostly known for torture porn, which isn't exactly something I'd be proud of. So I would consider that a con. Another con is that I don't know how people are gonna feel about the movie now that I've seen it. It could turn some fans off. I thought the ending was very abrupt. It came out of thin air, and some people probably won't be too happy about how this movie focuses less on the traps and more about the characters and story. Because the Saw sequels, they leaned so heavily on the traps, like that was all the movies were good for, was blood and death. And so fans of those movies, of like the later movies, won't like this very much. At least I don't think they will. So I would consider that a bit of a con. Is that this could turn off people. Another con, obviously, pandemic. It's gonna affect this movie's box office. I don't know by how much, but it definitely will have a negative effect. So that's definitely a con. Uh, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So, opening weekend, will this movie open above 10 million? I think it will. It has a decent chance of doing so. I think the fact that the Saw series has a big enough fan base and the fact that this is the most interesting movie coming out this weekend, I think it has a strong chance of breaking double digits. I think it can open above 10 million. It'll probably make 11, 12 million opening weekend. And considering the Saw series is notoriously front loaded, it's probably going to end at around 25 million. I mean, if it can surpass Saw 6, which did terrible by Saw standards, only made like 27 million. If it can surpass that, then I would consider this a success. No question about it. So, yeah. So that's it for Saw. Spiral. Or Spiral from the Book of Saw. Still don't know what that means, even after watching the movie. So we have one more movie to talk about, and that's Those Who Wish Me Dead. And then after that, that's it for the weekend. That's it for next weekend too, because nothing's coming out. You won't be seeing me again until the 28th when we talk about Cruella and A Quiet Place Part 2. That's going to be an important weekend, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got a playlist on the homepage. Will all previous prediction videos I've made this year. You know, Raya and the Last Dragon, Godzilla vs Kong, Mortal Kombat, Demon Slayer. I've covered every movie that's come out this year. So if you want to check out any of those or any of my past prediction videos from like 2019 to 2020, you can go right ahead. It's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. I just did one about the situation revolving Jungle Cruise, Free Guy, and Shang-Chi. So if you want to watch that and all the other canceled episodes, that way you're up to date on what's going on with all these movies, you can go right ahead. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. I just did the triple recap of February, March, April. The May recap will come out first week of June, so you can look forward to that. But if you want to check out any of my past recap videos, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.